This presentation is about short answer responses. Okay, before you begin, you have to analyze the question first. You can't just jump into the action. So let's take this question, for example. I gave you this question a couple of weeks ago. Based on the readings, what can you say about the role of expectations when it comes to education? Now, a big problem with answering these questions is that we feel they're about us and not the book. But it's text based. The question starts off with the phrase based on the readings. It's about the book. At the end of the day, it's about the book. You can ignore these phrases. What can you say? The word you suggests that the response should be your opinion. But that means if it's your opinion, then it can't be right and it can't be wrong. You could basically just write anything and it'll be right. So this is a trap, okay? You're going to see this on the state test. You're going to see this on multiple formats throughout your life, all right? At the end of the day, everything's our opinion because we're the ones writing it. So that's why you can't use words like I, me, my. Don't start sentences with I believe, I think. All those phrases make you sound unsure of yourself. And it makes you stray away from the book. All right? The key word here is about. The question is about the role of expectations when it comes to education. That is your topic. So when you write your topic sentence, it should be about this and not yourself. It shouldn't be I, me, my. It should not start with in my opinion. So this is your task. When you read a question like this, you should explain whether or not expectations can influence a person's education. And use examples from the story to support your answer, whatever that answer might be. So let's look at the sample response here. This is a great response. A person's education is greatly influenced by the expectations his or her parents and school may have for them. The other Wes Moore believes that his fate was influenced by the expectations that society had for him. In the introduction of part 3, the other Wes says, people are products of our expectations. He claims that people will succeed in life if success is expected of them. On the other hand, people will ultimately fail if very little is expected of them. So let's look at this response. Let's break it down, okay? Does it have everything we're looking for? Is it well written? The first sentence is a topic sentence. It doesn't talk about Wes Moore. It doesn't talk about the book. It talks about the topic. A person's education is greatly influenced by the expectations his or her parents and school have for them. That's a great topic sentence. It doesn't use I, me, my. It doesn't start with in my opinion, I believe, I think. It just addresses the topic, all right? And if you notice, the topic is education and expectations. It talks about both. And here, this is actually your opinion, is greatly influenced. If your opinion was the opposite, then you would say is not greatly influenced, is not really relevant, and then your answer would go on to support that idea. But the opinion is still comes through here in this response. And this is the answer. The other Wes Moore believes that his fate was influenced by the expectations that society had for him. That is straight to the point. That is not a complicated sentence, right? It makes the connection to the text. It talks about one of the Wes Moores, the other Wes Moore in this case, not the author, and what he believes. He believes that his fate was influenced by expectations that society had for him. That is his belief. And his belief supports the topic sentence. It supports the opinion of the person who wrote this. If I was going to go off to a different opinion, then I might talk about the author instead. This is the textual support. This is the quote. This is the most important part of your answer because it supports your answer. It makes you sound right. In the introduction of part 3, the other Wes says people are products of our expectations. Now let's look at this, right? If we look at just this sentence and break it down, I want you to understand why this is a well-written support sentence. The quote is not that big. The quote is only products of our expectations. But in this sentence, they tell me where they found it, who said it, and they paraphrase. They don't just throw the quote in there, they kind of blend it into their sentence. That's a great way to use a quote. Now lastly is the explanation. He claims that people will succeed in life if success is expected of them. On the other hand, people will ultimately fail if very little is expected of them. He explains, right? But he gives two sides using the transition. On the other hand, people will ultimately fail. That is the complete explanation. Gives both sides. Look at this sample response. Expectations could be high or low when it comes to anything. But with education, in the book, expectations are high. He stayed at the Job Corps Center for himself, page 144. The author is already educated and in the Army, but the other West has plans to succeed in education. Is this a well-written response? Take a minute to decide. Let's look at this, right? So here's the topic sentence. Not necessarily a good one. Could be, high or low, it, anything. Very ambiguous, very unclear of what they're talking about. Same thing here, okay? But with education, the book expectations are high. But with education, well, what does that mean? In the book, expectations are high. But for who? Right? Who is this quote even about? It just says he and himself. The author is already educated and in the Army, but the other West has plans to succeed in education. Alright, this is great, but it doesn't tell me why the Army has helped the author. And it doesn't explain how West eventually turns out. If his plan was to succeed in education, he would have.